and why did you decide to get into property?
Okay, well, I'll start with the why then. So I always sort of had an interest in not just property, but sort of business in general. I don't really know where that came from as such, but I began to sort of read books and research different things when I left uni, really, in 2006. And I always was saying to some of my uni friends when I left, that, none of us knew what we wanted to do. And I kept sort of saying, I think I'm going to start my own business. And you can imagine that we'd spent 3 years pretty much, studying, but also on the couch, playing computer games as well as students do. And so they thought I was just pie in the sky, really. But it came from that, really, just thinking that I wanted to obviously provide a good future for myself, but I also because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I sort of began to research sort of entrepreneurship as well, and whether that was even an option. I've also had, as everybody has in their sort of life, everyone's had challenges along the way. And since I was young, my mum's actually not been well. So for anybody that sort of knows me or sort of read the book that I did in years ago, that they'll know that she's suffered with MS, and so she's gone to various hospitals and various treatments, and it just began to make me think. Unfortunately, there's not a cure, but if there ever was, it's not going to be cheap, and life isn't cheap. So, what best way could I look to progress? Obviously make money, but also build assets for the future. So, I suppose the why was. Some was, myself, and I used to struggle with sort of talking about wanting to, better yourself, and I used to sometimes think, well, that's being a bit selfish if you want to try and make money and stuff like. But it's not. We've all got obviously a need to try and further ourselves and further what we're doing. But there was also some things close to home. I thought, if I can make a success of it, and there are any sort of cures in the future, then it gives me another option. So I suppose that was the why, really. The how is quite strange, really. So I got left uni in 2006, and I got my first job, and that was in recruitment. And I actually loved that job. And to be honest with you, I always said this, that I don't know if that had carried on, whether I would have started in property in 2008, because I had a boss who was a similar age to myself, and he was quite a high achiever at the time. So I think he was only just 30, but he was one of the directors in the company. And because I was sort of 25, we sort of really gelled and, worked well together, but also had a good time doing it. And I then, unfortunately, into the sort of end of 2007, the recession was coming, and I ended up getting made redundant. And it was at that point, really, that I really then thought, I just bought my first home to live in. So I had a mortgage, and, just sort of scary time at, standing on your own 2 feet with no money coming in. So I really began to research then and started to look online and look at some other sort of events that are around. And maybe a similar path to a lot of people, seeing a free seminar that was advertised, and then attended that. And it went from there, really, and realised that I always thought property was just you buy a property, wait for 20 years, hopefully it goes up in value. And then obviously you make your money that way, maybe for retirement, but found out about this whole bigger world, and I suppose the rest is history, as they say. So I ran with it from there.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Like you said, a lot of people struggle, and naturally, with that leap from the job, where there's that certain element of security if you've got a mortgage, and if you've got family to look after, and if it's just ingrained in you, right, and the generations before you as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And as you rightfully said, a redundancy makes you realise sometimes that it's not all it's promised to be either.
No,
is it? It's not guaranteed income.
Not at all.
And when you lose that job, you lose 100% of your income most of the time.
Yeah, that's it. And that is a lot of the time the problem that people, if they're relying on that, like you say, that one stream of income, it can go very quickly. And it's interestingly, when I got made redundant, I didn't actually go straight into property, because I'm a big believer in. I believe in the property world. There is too much hype out there, in the fact that it's great to get people motivated, but I also like to give people the reality as well, so that, because that was my problem at the start. I went on a couple of courses, and I've seen a lot of people that I've since found out, let's put it this way, not everything they were saying was completely true. But at the time, being, younger and believing everything I was told, I was thinking, well, they're doing this after a year and I'm only here. What's going on? And it sort of demotivated me for a while. And it's just, the start, I'm sure we'll talk about this in a bit, but the actual start of the journey is often the hardest. And I actually went and worked in another job for 9 months after I was made redundant that I really didn't want to do. I also worked evenings as well, just to give me that buffer to then go into property full time. And it allowed me to have a good year. And my attitude was, it's going to work, it's got to work. But if it doesn't, then I've done this sensibly, if that makes sense, rather than just...
And I think that's it. You set a plan, don't you? And I think that's a great area to touch on because, like you said, everyone likes the idea of the unknown of jumping into property, like you said, and what it can give you and what it can bring for you. But having that sensible decision to plan it out, to do a job that you didn't want to do for a while. So what was the plan in terms of the transition? Did you forecast, okay, a year and then I'm going to do this, I'm going to test out a strategy? Can you run us through that quickly?
Yeah, so I learned about various property strategies, began working with agents, began to advertise privately as well, and started to get a couple of... so if I go back to when I bought my first house, I left the initial first course, and my plan was to remortgage the house and do the kitchen up, as a lot of people buy a house to live in, they want to do some work to it. I went on this particular course, met some people, and then I remember saying to my dad, right, I'm not going to do the kitchen, I'm going to buy another flat. And everyone probably thought I was mad. This was just starting in 2008. And so I bought a couple of, as much as I can with what I refinanced. And at the time I bought a flat and it was 40,000. So I could use a 15% deposit. So I only needed 6,000. So I was able to pretty much fund that one through the remortgage. And then I began to use sort of various strategies, and it got to a point where I was at 3 or 4 properties. And I know about this because I've spoke to other people who are further down the line than me, and they sort of use the same rule. And I sort of got to 60 or 70% of what I was earning in the job, sort of passively. And I know we'll talk about passive income and property later on, but it was there on a great month, all being well, all tenants paying, everything great. I sort of got to sort of 60, 70% of my income. So at that point, I then realised that, okay, so for the other 30%, I'm now going to buy back 40 hours of my time by leaving that job. And I suppose it was that leap of faith. If I can't, I've got a buffer of 6 to 12 months of that 30%, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And if I can't make it work after then, I'll have to restock and, look at something else. But it wasn't because I get phone calls or emails sometimes of people who have been on a course, been hyped up over the weekend, left their job on the Monday morning, and then the reality's hitting the next month. All the bills are coming in. It's not quite as simple as they thought. And unfortunately, in some cases, they've then spent, their deposit money on training courses, which could be even a worse situation to be in. So it was structured, but there had to be that leap at some point. And I thought, if I can get to 60, 70%, I'm willing to. That was my sort of risk profile. Some people make the jump straight away, and good luck to them. But for me, that was just the way I wanted to do it.
No, that makes sense that you tested the waters first, right?
Yeah.
So you picked up what three to 4 properties.
There's about four properties, buy to lets, and those properties were making about £200 to £300 a month cash flow. And I knew it was a repeatable process because I was spending evenings and weekends talking to so many agents. I was doing sort of private viewings, so I had adverts out there, and when I got calls, I was going to see the properties. So I was testing the water, and I knew there was more of a, and obviously I could see the recession coming, and I thought, well, it'd come by that point, and I thought this is going to be a good time to buy. I suppose I was obsessed with reading books on, the amount of millionaires made in recessions, and really just I thought if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it now. My youth, I think, helped me because I wasn't sort of, again, nothing to anybody that's, a lot younger or a lot older, but I was sort of 26, 27. And I thought, this for me, no kids, no, obviously a mortgage, but no massive dependence as such. So I thought, if I'm going to do it, I'll do it now. And then if it doesn't work, we'll restock. I suppose that's the the beauty of youth as well. Sometimes you sometimes don't think as much, which can help you in some ways.
I think, yeah, like you said, I was similar. I guess I did a lot of my property and my business endeavors very early, very young. But I think I was so young that I didn't think that I would ever do things differently as I got older. And it's not until you start getting older that other things start creeping in, other realities. But I think it goes back to, and I can't speak for, like you said, people at different ages, but it goes back to, if your why is strong enough, you will find a way to do it. Definitely. No matter what. I know people who have decided to leave their jobs very late in life and get into property.
Yeah.
Not saying they had loads of money saved up or anything like that, but they found their reason why they were going to do it and did it the right way for them at the time.
I think so. I think, and I always had the mindset, and I didn't believe. Some people said, "Oh, it's negative in a way," but I don't believe that. But I always thought, if I don't, there's always a plan B. If it doesn't happen, I'm willing to go and do any job until I get what I want after. So, I mean, I play a lot of tennis, or used to. I still play a bit now, but that was something I was going to do when I left uni. I was thinking about coaching, but, whether that's cleaning or, I've got friends who are builders who, when I was at uni, I hod carried for a friend, which was a good sort of introduction to how hard a lot of the, when the refurbishments are being done, it's great to see them come together, but the work that goes into it. But I was willing to, I didn't have this sort of attitude that, I can't do that, or that's, I'm too good for that. It was a case of, if it didn't go the way I wanted it to, I had to go and get a job, any job I would do, and I'll, make my way back. And, that just gave me the comfort blanket I needed. But obviously I was confident that it would work. It was working, but it's just that going from a part-time sort of, hobby's the wrong word, but a part-time investment alongside something, to it being your full-time job. I have to admit that first Monday morning when I left my job, and it was the camaraderie as well, because I worked in quite a big company. So I was around probably 100 people a day just in my team, to go into me on my sofa, with my cup of tea and thinking, right, this is it now. So I've got to plan my day. I've got to go and use my time in the most effective way. So.
Yeah, it's a self-motivating side that's very difficult, especially when that PlayStation is so close for some people.
Yeah, and also they go and do a great deal, and it's like, I've done my target for the month now, so I'll, like you say, I can watch TV.